Welcome into another edition of the Draft Academy podcast. Your host, Brandon Kravitz here, and I'm joined today by someone that you all know very well, a man who threw numerous touchdowns Gabe Davis's way at UCF, the one and only McKenzie Milton. KZ, it is great to catch up. Tell the folks how life is out in Knoxville, Tennessee. You're decked out in orange as we speak right now.
Life is good, man. It's going on year two out here. Year one was a great learning experience. Brought in our second, my wife and I were brought in our second child into the world while we've been up here. So life is happening fast, but man, God is good, and it's been a awesome experience up here so far. And looking forward to starting fall camp next week, and plan is to go win a SEC and a national championship. So I'm fired up.
Well, that's amazing. Congrats on the new one.
Thank you.
My parents, the in-laws, they're starting to put the pressure on, so I'm sure you experienced that too.
I love it. No doubt.
So, you were in Orlando for a while. So how long is it taking you to adjust, or do you still feel like you're adjusting to life in Knoxville?
I feel like we've gotten pretty adjusted. We just moved from an apartment to a rental home, which has been great. Just having a 2-year-old who, from the time he wakes up, is like outside, outside, outside.
Yep.
So grateful for that. But I would say the first year, just living somewhere where there's snow for the first time was, driving in the snow for really the first time was different. But other than that, it's these coaches were here while I was at UCF, so it's much of the same. Because when I was living in Orlando, I was in the football facility all the time. I'd say the biggest adjustment is just terrain again. Growing up in Hawaii, there's no terrain in Orlando, so that was a big adjustment. Getting back used to that, but it's nice, man. I like the mountains. What I do miss a lot is obviously people out in Orlando and the food places.
Are they not bringing it in Knoxville?
No, they are. It's just different kind of food. Like you kind of got everything in Orlando. Because there's all different walks of life coming to that city. Up here, there's variety, but I don't know, man. Like Kabuki sushi out on East Colonial. My wife likes to eat fancy, so like Ava out in Winter Park. Like you ain't getting those kind of places out here.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And free plug to those restaurants here on the podcast.
No doubt. But I will say there is really good restaurants up here, but there's just more out in Orlando.
Hilarious that you say that. Knowing Gabe the way that you do, does it surprise you in the slightest that he has opened up his own gym?
Nah, man, this is something we talked about, from the time we were in college, both of us kind of having that dream. And when he got to the league and when I had my son, he's like, hey, I'm gonna have a place for him to train when he grows up. And that was one of the first things he told me when they opened up the draft academy. So I'm super fired up for him, and he's done everything he's put his mind to, from getting drafted, being one of the best, if not the best, receivers to come out of UCF, and his work ethic second to none with the guys I've been around.
He seems like the kind of guy that just went about business the right way, and the interactions that I've had with him, super buttoned up, very professional. Yep. Do you agree with that? And how important is that to not only have that approach, but surround yourself with the right people that allow you to kind of be that person?
Yeah, man. I think for him, he, like, coming out of high school, coming out of Sanford, Seminole High School, he was an under recruited guy, probably knocked on his speed. And I remember a lot of coaches coming out thought he was a tweener. He's not quite a tight end. He's not quite a receiver. But came to UCF, day one starter, won a Peach Bowl his freshman year. And, by the time his junior year, he's breaking all-time records, and, he's becoming a draft pick. But I would say the biggest thing with Gabe, to me, was, one, he wasn't a guy you're going to see out at the bars late at night, wasn't a drinker, wasn't a smoker. He was a guy that, he wanted to go take care of his mom and his family. And, he had his mind made up from the time he left Sanford. And, he's doing that now. So it's great for me to see. And I say for him, the biggest thing, like, and I think him and I had this in common, just relentless competitors. Like, you might be faster than him, you might be bigger than him, but at the end of the day, he's going to compete and find a way to win. And that's been, I think his best attribute. Obviously, working hard is important, but the competitive spirit that he has, man, he just wants to win, and he's going to find a way to win.
I can imagine how comforting it was dropping back in the pocket at UCF. You're looking around and you see Traquan Smith and you see Gabe Davis, and you've got those the
Jordan Akins.
Yeah, I mean, a whole cycle of studs in the backfield too, in case things didn't go well. How much comfort did that give you as a quarterback?
Man, I say it all the time. Like, as a quarterback, you're just one cog in the wheel of success and failure. Like, if you got good receivers, you're probably be a good quarterback. If you got average receivers, you'll probably be an average quarterback. If you got elite receivers, and you got a chance to be elite. And if you can ad lib a little bit, which I was able to do, man, that's how you go on 25-game win streaks and do something special. It's all 11 guys making it happen. But to be able to look to my X receiver, see Traquan can go win one-on-one, Jedrick Snelson in the slot, Gabe on the outside, and then my tight end is a freak matchup too, like with Jordan Akins and Jordan Franks. And then you got some of the fastest guys in college football in the backfield. Like, it makes my job super easy. I know quarterbacks tend to get a lot of the players of the year and things like that, but those guys made it so easy on me. I would countless times just drop off a check down to Adrian Killens and he'd turn it up the sideline for 90. So it was a lot of fun, and that makes me appreciate, like, coaching now, just understanding, like, man, we got to have some guys out here on the outside. Otherwise, like, we got to really scheme some things up to, make it happen. But the best great players make great coaches, and put it that way.
I mean, coaches tend to help too, but it does all start with the talent. And like you said, it's got to be everywhere. Did you know at the time? I mean, obviously you guys did a lot of winning. You went undefeated in 2017, undefeated until the bowl game and your injury in 2018. But did you know in the moment that how special the locker room was? Or do you reminisce on that and go, man, it's like one in a million to have that sort of group? I was talking to your teammate Shaquem Griffin recently, and him reminiscing on the 2017 locker room made me want to run through a brick wall. He tends to do that, I know, but did you know in the moment, or is that something that you just reminisce on?
I think you kind of see it in the moment, but as time goes on, the older you get, the wiser you get, and then you start to appreciate those times a little bit more. But I think you appreciate it more just understanding, like, where those teams came from. From 2015 losing every game to 2016, getting blown out in a bowl game and us getting booed out, by our own fans in the Cure Bowl, to the next year going to win it all. And the following year, like, winning every game, to me getting hurt, to the team rallying around to go come back from double digits in a conference championship game, like, that doesn't happen unless the team is super tight, because adversity is inevitable from season to season. But when you can look to your left and look to your right and nobody's flinching, like, that just gives everybody confidence. Because I would say we were a great practice team, and we approached practice like it was a game. Like, go back to 2017, the way that one defense and the one offense would compete in 2-minute situations, 4-minute situation, good on good, like, those are the best guys we were playing all season long, and we wanted to beat each other. And some days they would beat us, some days we beat them. But at the end of the day, like, it was a brotherhood out there, and we'd take care of each other. But it was relentless competitiveness. And then also on the flip side, in the locker room, like, if there was ever any, scuffles out on the field, like, we wouldn't fight at practice. We'd go into the locker room afterwards. We'd have 2 pairs of boxing gloves, and we'd allow these guys to settle it, throw their dukes up.
For real?
Like, yeah, for real. Like, we got in circles. Like, if they were fighting at practice, like, we're gonna waste time at practice, so squash it at practice. get into the locker room. Like, you guys still got beef? Yep. Throw on the gloves. There's a fight. Somebody might get pieced up. It's like round two. And then 10 of it good. And then after, they adapt it up, squash it, and that was it. That's kind of how we handle things. Looking back, would I like that? Quarterbacks were never fighting because you got to protect their hands. But that's how we handle things, man. And we had a brotherhood that I haven't been anywhere where I've seen brotherhood like that. But it starts from the inside out. It starts with the players and starts with the team leaders.
As a coach, how much control do you think you have in your current situation to try and cultivate something like that at Tennessee?
It's a challenge, man, especially this, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, just this new day and age of, these kids are, starting to make money with NIL, and, that brings a whole different can of worms, because back in that day, we're all just living off of COA, living off of, the training room, or sorry, the training table, and things like that. Now these guys at times know what each other are making, so naturally these guys are young. There might be some jealousy there. So I do think there's more of a challenge there, but I would also say Coach Hype has done a really, really good job navigating those waters, and their new waters of just, the guys that we invest in out here at Tennessee are the right guys, just meaning that they ain't coming in puffing up their chest like, hey, I'm the man. I think it's important when your best players are also the most selfless. And that was the case for us, I thought, at UCF, and I do see it as the case here at Tennessee for the most part. And we still got, room to grow, obviously, and that's everywhere. But I would say the guys that are our best players are the most selfless. And obviously, like I said, those external factors, like, at the end of the day, if you're performing, guys aren't going to care, what those external factors are.
I was talking to Gabe's trainer, Burt Wiggum, about exactly that. Some guys come in, high school athletes, they're worried about their brand and all of that. And he says, you can cut that out right now, because if you perform, that's all people care about. It's not going to matter if you got a cute logo or anything like that. And that's one of the things that I love about what Gabe has built over here is sort of a haven for people that might end up astray, end up leaning on the wrong person that sends them down the wrong path, worried about the wrong things. And that's where the Draft Academy comes in. And so that's really been one of the nice, bright spots about what they've offered. Tell me about your quarterback that you guys have. I'm going to try and not butcher his name because he deserves my respect. Nico Iyama-Lavia? Is that correct?
Not quite. You're good, brother. You're good. It's Nico Iyama-Lavia. Or Nico Iyama-Lavia. Like,
that's the difference with somebody who's from Hawaii and someone who is clearly not. That rolled so easily off of your tongue, but he's a superstar from my view.
Yeah.
Is he about to take college football by storm?
God willing, man, I think so. He had a really good spring. Obviously, everybody saw him in the Citrus Bowl against Iowa, one of the top defenses in the country. And you go to camps, you see guys on tape. You don't really know until the live bullets are going, and it slows down. And that's what you want the boast for a quarterback, is when the game actually starts, it looks easier than it did in practice. And that's the case for Nico, at least from what we saw in game one. Obviously, he's got room to improve. Obviously, it's going to be, a gauntlet of a schedule in the SEC, but the way he prepares, the way he processes, and the way he can ad-lib, I think he has a chance to be one of the best, if not the best, quarterbacks in the country.
You want to walk me through that pronunciation one more time?
I believe it's Nico Iyama-Lavia. Some say A at the end, but it's Nico Iyama-Lavia.
Yeah, I looked up the pronunciation guide and everything, and still found a way to just trip right through that. What's the one defining quality that he has that you've seen in yourself, that you've seen in other great quarterbacks that you've come across? Something that he has that you go, okay, then, and that's how I know he's going to be good. What exactly is that?
Like I said, elite processing, elite preparation, and an ability to ad lib, meaning like based off his pre-snap picture, he can make a post-snap decision because he can process the information in a tenth of a second. And when it comes to playing at this level in this conference, like you're talking about half a second before a pass rush gets home, you're talking half a second before a post safety gets to the seam route. Like being able to process and anticipate, he's a lead at, in my opinion. And but more than anything, like the most important part in any position you play is your preparation. Leading up to the bowl game, he did an elite job of preparing, knowing his job code, knowing his protections, and that's why he was able to, as his first start as a true freshman, go out and you know really carve up one of the better defenses in the FBS. Now, having said that, like he's not he's not. We don't expect him to be perfect this year, is what I'm gonna say. So I don't want to boost him up that he's gonna be everything and more because he'll make some mistakes. But the way he's took the off season, and then also just the best QBs, in my opinion, they elevate the guys around them and they make those guys want to be better. And he does it in a way where he's a soft spoken, poly kid, similar to a Marcus Mariota. He just leads by action, man. He leads by, you know, preparing, getting his guys prepared. And when you turn on the tape, man, like the kid is elite. When we get into the meeting rooms, he knows his job cold. Like he's taking the right steps. He ain't perfect by any means. Like, and we're going to keep pushing to be perfect, be our best. But he's done a really, really good job this offseason of bringing up the guys around him. And, like I said, I expect him to be one of the best, if not the best in the country.
You sound like such a coach, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I remember when you went down with that injury, and I was on the air talking about it thereafter. I'm like, don't worry, this guy. If quarterback doesn't work out because he's not able to get back out into the field, this guy's going to be a head coach one day. Do you feel like do you feel like you're on that path? Is that a goal of yours? I know that this season's about this season, so I don't want to get too far ahead here, but you're a goal-oriented person. Is that something that you have in your mind that one day you would like to achieve?
Yeah, absolutely. God willing, I'd love to be a head coach one day, but I'm also a big believer in just knowing your role and excelling in your role. And right now, I'm an assistant quarterback coach here. Our quarterback coach and coordinator is Joey Halsey, and he's done a great job of just showing me the ropes of what it takes to run a room, game plan plays, and there's a lot that goes into this deal that I'm not even close to being ready to take on that role of a head coach or even a coordinator for that matter anytime soon. But I do believe the way I've took the coaching as an assistant coach, I do believe I'm learning a lot, and I'm learning from really, in my opinion, some of the best guys from Coach Hype to Coach Halsey. But just what it takes to run a QB room, run an offense, and just observing Coach Hype how he's even from our time at UCF to now at Tennessee, seeing it from a coaching perspective, he's grown tremendously, and obviously that shows for itself the turnaround that this program's had over the past 3 going into year 4. Like, man, I really wouldn't want to work for anybody else in the country when it comes to Coach Hype and Coach Halsey.
I mean, you're in a great spot right now, and this is the blessing in disguise of, I know that you had to stop playing before you would have otherwise wanted to, but you also get a head start in the coaching journey where most guys don't get started until years down the road. So, in some ways it's like you can sort of have that approach and that mentality that you obviously have right now where you're like, I can just be great at this job. There's no rush and I'll still be years ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach Randy Fannin always, gave great advice. Just be where your feet are. Like, I got a beautiful wife, 2 little kids. And like I said, working for Coach Hype, my kids get to come around, run around at practice, after practice. Cool. And, that's not the case, for every head coach around the country. And, I had the pleasure of, having a good relationship with Coach Hype and Coach Halsey before coming here, so they would give me an opportunity to be a quality control analyst coming in, which, like you said, is it's a great starting point for myself and this career path. But man, I'm super grateful for the opportunity Coach Hype's given me, and one thing I learned from Coach Norvell over at Florida State, he just always said, "Be your best every day. Just be your best." And that's something I constantly try to remind myself, just like, man, just be my best, and the rest will take care of itself.
It is really cool when you think about it. I almost forget that you were coached by Mike Norvell, who's done a phenomenal job at Florida State.
Yes.
The coaches that you've been around since you got to college football have been incredible. Scott Frost was amazing. Heupel, you're still with him, so obviously you hold him in a high regard. And Mike Norvell, who has, hell, no disrespect to Paxton Lynch. He got Paxton Lynch drafted in the first round. Okay. So that guy can coach.
Hey, no doubt. No, he can. And the cool thing about all three of those guys, like, three of the best, like, coaches and humans I've been around, but three completely different personalities. Like, and that was a cool thing for me to take, from all those guys. Like, man, there's different ways to be successful and still take care of your people. So, I'm fired up to see, what Coach Norvell and those guys are doing over there. Hopefully, we get to see them in the playoff this year. Hopefully Coach Frost will get back into it sooner rather than later, man. I'd love to see him get back into it.
Yeah, I'm sure he won't be able to stay out for too long. Final couple minutes here with you. Let's wrap up talking about some of the training aspects of what you lived through in your playing days, what you see now, and all of that. Training and nutrition. Was that something that you feel like when you look back on your playing days that you took seriously enough?
I would say no. I took it serious, but not in the capacity that I needed to. And I put it like this: like, if I ask you, like, Brandon, what are your aspirations? And your aspirations are to, I want to be the best, radio host or podcaster of all time. Or if you would ask me as a player, like, where do you want to go? Like, man, I want to be the best quarterback. I want to go win every game. I want to be a first round draft pick. I want to be this, that, and the other. Well, to be that 1%, less than 1% of what you're saying that you want to be, a first round pick or the best quarterback in the country, the first quarterback off the board, to me, every action that you take, everything you do should be adding up to that choice. Or if I say I want to be the best dad, if I say, I want to follow Jesus Christ, if I'm not serious about those decisions I make that add up to those things, then I tell the players, like, you're really a liar. So going back to the nutrition aspect of when I was a player, man, too many fried foods. Like, I really wasn't much of a partier other than when I first got to college and after I got hurt because I had way too much time on my hands. But, man, if you're taking in alcohol, smoking, like, obviously that's not food, but that's hindering your training. So if you're going to train at 5 a.m. or whatever it is, you train all week and then you go out Friday night with the boys because you want to let off steam, you really just wasted a whole week of training when you say you want to go to the NFL. So I would say I wouldn't change anything, but there's definitely a lot of regret when it comes to just wasting time when I said I wanted to get somewhere. Because when you look back on your career, you don't want to have any what ifs. And I look at mine, I was like, man, there's a bunch of what ifs. A lot of great times, but a lot of, like, question marks just with, certain things. Then when it comes to food, man, I would say, like, the biggest thing when it comes to recovery is just targeting, like, things that trigger inflammation. So fried foods, like unnecessary carbs and things like that. And I didn't have the best education, I would say, in college on this kind of stuff. I would really say I learned more about it as I was going through my rehab process, just trying to keep inflammation down in my leg. But when you're 18 to 20 years old and you're winning every football game and, it works, right? Until it's like, man, it gets real. It's like, man, I got to do everything possible to get here. But I would say the training aspect, I trained my butt off. Like, I always wanted to compete, and be the best I could possibly be. I was really good about taking care of my body when I was playing. But I would say the external factors, mainly the nutrition, at times they weren't up to the standard they should have been, I would say.
What about after game day? What was your routine for recovery? Hot tub, cold tub, massage? What was your go-to when you wanted to kind of get right back on track?
So the biggest thing for me was I would get in the lap pool, like meaning just a normal room temperature pool. I like to swim around, do high knees, get range of motion back in. Just because, like for recovery, you want to get blood flow back to like certain extremities. Like prime example, my junior year, game one, I sprained an ankle, like high ankle sprain against UConn. Well, to get to play the game two, like one, I'd elevate. The tricky thing is if you ice, sometimes your muscles get tight. So it depends on like what type of injury you've had coming out of the game, whether or not you really want to hit those cold tubs. So for me, I always just wanted to get range of motion back in my body. So I would hit a lap pool, get on the underwater treadmill. I'd get in an Alter G, which is a anti-gravity treadmill. It can get you down to 20% of your body weight. So like on a Monday, I'll just get in there, start jogging around for like 10 minutes, just getting blood in my legs, low impact. And then throughout the week, like I'd be in that I really didn't like the cold tub as a player, in all honesty.
Yeah,
Like
you
I
sound
would
miserable, first of all.
I, I get in it more now that I'm older, and I'm wiser. But as a player, I liked my body to be loose, so I would be in the underwater treadmill. I'd be in the lap pool, getting range of motion, and then for ice, I would use what's called a game ready machine. It's like those Normatec boots you see, but it squeezes and compresses, but also gives cold compression and cold water through it. So I would use those on my ankles, my knees, my joints, and elevate them. Get reverse blood flow, stand up, the blood flow comes back. Massage, I would typically get a massage either Wednesday or sorry, early in the week, and then if I needed another one on Thursday, leading into our up tempo walkthrough on Friday. And typically by Friday would come around, I'd feel really good on a week to week basis. But Sunday would be sorry, let me take you through the week.
Let's go. Yeah.
Sunday, I'd be in the treadmill, underwater, recovering, um, and then just little maintenance with my shoulder, getting my arm moving again. Monday, I'd hit the field a little bit barefoot, just strengthening my feet, like
Interesting.
not wanting to be on cleats. Get a little recovery lift in. Tuesday, I typically get a massage after practice, and I'd hit the treadmill again. I'd really hit the underwater pool, the lap pool before practice as well, before every practice. Wednesday would be more of the same, and then Thursday probably get a little like flush massage, and then Friday just any little last minute things that I would need, maybe like a hip flexor release or something like that. And by the time I hit Saturday, I usually felt good to go. And then sometimes you need to shoot some things up to play, but but that's another topic.
That's a whole other podcast. Is that, and it sounds like that was your routine. Was that something that you came up with, or was that something you worked with trainers on to develop that? I mean, that obviously was such a routine for you. You still have it locked in. You can remember the whole schedule.
Work with trainers, and really it'd be a week to week basis. I kind of had in my mind like, I'd talk to some vets when I first got to college, what kind of worked for them, talk to guys that that have played a long time. And just for me, I knew what my body responded to well. And like growing up, being right next to the ocean, like I always felt like the water helps you heal for whatever reason. And I loved just like getting my body moving in the water, taking off, like doing high knees in there, taking off like impact on your joints and things like that. And really, unless I had like a nagging injury, like an ankle or a shoulder going into a game, like everywhere else typically felt really good, and I felt fresh going into most games.
McKenzie Milton is an assistant quarterback coach for the Tennessee Volunteers. He's a UCF legend and all around one of my favorite people on planet Earth. Thanks so much for the time today. I really appreciate it, KZ.
Thank you, brother. God bless, my boy. Look forward to doing it again.
We're back next week with more from the Draft Academy. I've been your host, Brandon Kravitz. Till next time.